He's angry about mortgages. It's Angry Mortgage. He's swearing. He's cursing loud. He's old. He's opinionated. And he's been doing this so damn long. This program is about mortgages, and this is mortgage advice, but the advice may not apply to your situation. Contact licensed mortgage professionals for specific recommendations before you make decisions about mortgages. You may not agree with Ron, but if you don't, he thinks you're wrong. Oh, and did we say there is a lot of swearing?
And we're back.
We're back.
Angry Mortgage is on the air. Mm-hmm. And it's spring.
It is.
Spring is good. Like it's, even though it's weather's not.
Even though Canada doesn't think or knows it's spring. Yeah. Some days it's spring, some days it's winter.
Some days it's always winter on the fucking weekend.
Always,
okay?
Yeah. These weekends have been so shitty.
Jesus Christ. Like you walk out some days it's beautiful, and anyway. Then all of a sudden Saturday it's raining. I'm not good with that. Anyway, it is spring in Canada. Life is good. And I'm going to shout out to all the listeners and viewers. We're going to do a little sort of, you can put in the comments section or find a way to communicate to us. Some people are saying, your introduction is too long. It's long. You should shorten it. Oh, okay. I kind of like the intro to the podcast. I like it, but here's what I think happens. People who have been listening to the podcast, thank you, loyal listeners and loyal watchers.
Day one.
Thank you. Okay, we love you. We love you, honest. I mean, there's no point in doing this if nobody's listening, right?
Yeah, that's true.
But here's the thing. Some of you have listened to it like 70 times. We're heading for 70. Okay,
70 episodes,
we're getting there. And if you've heard it 70 times, you probably think it's too long.
Yeah,
but folks, we honest to God, for our new listeners, and we hope there's lots of you. New subscribers, thank you. They need to know there's going to be that much swearing going on. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
like you don't want.
It's also a good disclaimer. Don't take that mortgage advice to the T.
No.
Call a professional.
Yeah, you can't just say, well, the guy on the podcast said, so I'm doing it. No, somebody has to look at your individual situation. Okay, but yeah. And there's the swearing's real. So if you watch, you decide, I've heard about this great podcast. I'm going to watch it at lunch hour on my laptop and have the sound
on
up.
loud.
and the sound up and, fuck you. Oh my God, I'm in trouble at work now. Oh, jeez. Okay, so we think it's good that we have the disclaimers, but
it protects us.
Let us know. Please let us know if you think, you crazy bastards, it's way too long. Just let us know.
That's what the comment section are for, is to engage. Let us know.
Let us know. We want to know. So, by the way, it's the first time anybody said it to me. So I thought, okay, ask the listeners. Listeners king, viewers king. So let's do that.
But that's how people probably don't believe that you read all the comments. But you actually do.
Well, the people that I block, when I say, okay, you said this. Okay, well, listen, let me help you. You're never going to have to see the video again.
Yeah.
You're blocked from the YouTube channel. We read every single comment. Folks, we read every single comment. I read them. I read every comment. I had like 3 people ask me the other night, I was out at an event and other mortgage workers were saying, who writes your stuff?
Huh?
What?
You have a ghostwriter now?
It's just me.
Yeah.
How many times do you have to do takes and how do you edit? No, none of that.
Raw conversation.
This is one take.
One take. We can't mess up, but we just slap it on the internet.
Yeah. Put it out into the world. Okay. Yeah. So that's how it works. But let us know what you think. All right. Mm-hmm. Very interesting news this week. We had Jerome Powell, who is the chairman of the U.S. Federal Reserve. Some people call him J. Powell.
J. Powell. It sounds cool.
God, he is the least cool guy alive. Okay, he's an old, white hair, and he's a skinny guy, and he's always frowning, and he's looking mad, never smiles. I don't think I've ever seen Jerome Powell smile. Okay,
it's okay. Older people, you're pretty cool.
I'm not cool at all.
You're pretty hip.
But the reality is, this guy is the farthest. He is Like he's like your ancient grandfather who's ready to give you a backhand. Okay,
Oh,
like I mean,
no.
like, he's that kind of a guy. Like corporal punishment is not a bad idea to him.
Oh my gosh.
But big news out of the States. I think it's big news because I'll tell you why. It's very impactful on rates. Bank of Canada rate as well. People say, well, what do you mean? We're Canada. We're not the U.S. It is very close relationship. Okay, it is close, and it is
like close cousins, like first cousins,
or cousins like from the Appalachians who sleep together. Okay, like I mean, like that kind of cousin. All right.
Yikes.
There's a reason why everybody in if you go to Portugal and you go to this island off the coast of Portugal called I think it's the Azores. If you go to those islands, you find out that there's a reason there's only 3 surnames in the entire islands. I mean, they're a little inbred. Anyway,
oh my
nice
God.
people. We love you. We love you.
Now all the Portuguese people are going to come.
We love
to
you, Portuguese people. No, the Portuguese people are for real. They'll say, yeah, he's right.
Well, it's history. I mean, at one point, all of our ancestors had to, you know.
Like those island people. Yeah, he's right about that.
Oh, no.
So I know I'm not in trouble with all the Portuguese people.
No, just the
those island
Azores.
folks. Just the island folks, okay? Because, they're a little inbred. Anyway, so, the reason we have to pay attention to the States is that it is the biggest economy in the world. Them and China, they're the biggest. But we share the border with them.
Right next door.
And for a lot of economies, like if you think of the European Central Bank, Bank of Japan's on a little weird course right now, but these countries, like there's a reason why they raised. I mean, we just didn't. We're not independent, so we have to think about what they do. And they did some interesting things. The announcement came out, and he said, "Okay, no change. Oh, when will there be cuts? Hey, J-Pow, when will there be cuts?" He says, I ain't talking about cuts. That's kind of a bad news, right? Like if you say, well, I'm not going to talk about cuts, we'd like to hear about cuts. But he said a couple of other interesting things. He said there will be no hikes. He doesn't like the kind of inflation they have in the U.S. Their inflation is running much hotter than ours. Okay, but he doesn't. He said there'll be no hikes. In spite of the inflation running a little hot, there's no hikes. He did not say there was never going to be cuts. He was neutral on cuts. He said one other very interesting thing, that he's closely watching the labor market, which is jobs. Okay. And then lo and behold, 2 days later, U.S. job report comes out. Not fucking good.
That's concerning.
They've had nothing but good reports, and suddenly not so good. And finally, he announced the reduction in. I won't get too technical, folks, but there's in bond markets you can either have neutral or you can have quantitative easing. That's when the central bank is providing a floor under the price of bonds, or you can have quantitative tightening, where the central bank is going in the opposite direction. It's saying, we're going to withdraw bonds from the economy, and so he announced curtailment we quit quantitative tightening. Canada did quantitative tightening for about a year and a bit, and we quit a couple of months ago, and he announced the tapering off of quantitative tightening in the States, which is basically a blessing to bond yields. Okay, that helps out on bond yields. So these things happened kind of at once: the jobs report, quantitative tightening reduction, and the no hike announcement, and basically it's circling around to someday, not today, not the summer, but someday there will be cuts from the Federal Reserve.
It's a lot slower than we expected, I guess.
Much slower, but this job stuff is key. Like the United States Federal Reserve has a true dual mandate. Like, what is their jobs? Their job is to control inflation and to maintain as full employment as possible. They have 2 things they're after. So when the jobs reports go in the shitter, they have to pay attention to that.
Right.
It's part of their mandate. It's a similar mandate here, and a lot of people don't realize that. They think they added the extra mandate about a year and a half, nearly 2 years ago, in Canada as well. So what does it mean for Canada? It means that the cuts are coming at the Bank of Canada. The cuts are coming. This is the thing I get the most comments on. I have the standing $10,000 bet. Okay. And my bet is there will be cuts this year. And we got a lot of chirpy comments on the internet, comments to social media. No, you're wrong, you fat fuck, you're wrong. And I'll take your bet. But then when you say, okay, send me your information, we'll arrange for the money to be put with a third party. So it's there waiting for the cut. And nobody responds.
Crickets.
Silence.
They got to put their money where their mouth is.
Yeah, in the world of social media, nobody puts their money where their mouth is. Of course not. It does not happen, okay? Or they immediately want to change the bet. So I say there's going to be cuts. There's going to be at least one cut. Yeah, okay, I'll take that bet, but only if there has to be 3 cuts. No, fuck you, sir. Because they're always men, right? They literally are. All the arguers on social media are always men. So, you know that, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's it. So, no takers, and pretty soon... No, it's going my way now. Okay, so there'll be fewer and fewer takers. All right, so that's the move in Canada. The cuts will come. I'm not sold on a June cut. Although chances of it have risen to about a little over 35% chance of that. And by the way, that's before the U.S. jobs numbers came out, so it might be even more. I'm thinking that it's a maybe for a July cut from the Bank of Canada, and there's still absolutely positively $10,000 bet out there for all comers who are honest and actually send money to an account where a neutral party is holding it. So I know you're not just, a banana with a face, okay, and named Aardvark 74239, okay. So yeah, I'm not interested in betting with Aardvark with a banana face, okay. So. But if you want to be a serious bet, I'll take your bet. So what's it all mean? It means that's a good news story, right? Cuts are a good news story for the average Canadian.
Yeah.
Less interest is better than more interest in general. Okay. So the thing that we have to start to ask ourselves then is, how quickly? Now that's where I don't want to get too involved because how do you I know there's going to be cuts. I just know it. I know it based on all my analysis, all my years, all my research. I know there's going to be a cut in the Bank of Canada. And by the way, if the Fed does not cut immediately, and I don't think they will, I believe the Bank of Canada will go ahead of the Fed, just like I suspect European Central Bank will go ahead of the Fed. But they can't go too far. They can't go too far because as everybody screams out, "Oh, the dollar will fall against the U.S. We'll have a currency problem. Our dollar will go to ratchet. Our dollar will become a peso." Okay, peso's not doing too bad right now. But anyhow, as I've said many times on the show, I've lived through a 63, 62 cent Canadian dollar.
You've seen some shit.
I've seen some shit. It's very hard to go on holidays in the States.
Tell me about it.
If it's bad now, think of a 62 cent dollar, very, very bad. Caribbean's the same. Mexico's the same. Yeah. Very bad because it's expensive. It becomes more and more expensive. But anyway, but exporters love it. Anyhow, so that's, I think, the reality moving forward of where that's going to happen in interest rates. Now, as we've always said, there's fixed rates and there's variable. We're going to get to the variable news in a minute. But what will be the impact on house prices? I'm going to withhold judgment on that right now. I'm going to tell you some of the things that are happening right now that affect house prices. But this, everybody says, well, when the cuts start, the house prices will go up. I got a bunch of analysis to do on that. I got some ideas to present, but not today because there ain't no cut in June. I don't think so.
Still a far stretch a little bit.
Might happen. I'm not going to make some wild certainty prediction on it. I don't believe there'll be a cut in June.
Not today, but you'll make the prediction before Tiffy.
I will make the conviction before Tiff. Actually, this might be one of the few times I won't.
Really?
I don't even know. I gotta say,
let Tiffy have this one.
I might let Tiff have this one, but it might get more clear. It might be by the time June rolls around, it might be a lot more clear. We'll talk about it then for sure. Now there is actually real news in Rateland. There's real news in Rateland, and it's on variable rates. All right, let me set it up for you. We've gone through about a bajillion shows where I've said, no to variable. It's a wager. It's a bet. Don't fucking do it. On and on. So one of the main reasons I said variable's not a great idea, and it wasn't. It was not. Okay. Is cuts were unknown or far away, and mainly unknown. And the thing about variable is it's based on a discount from prime. When you get a variable rate mortgage, it's okay. Prime is 7.2 in Canada. That's bank prime, folks. Okay, 7.2, and it's nothing to do with you can't borrow from the Bank of Canada. So whatever their rate is meaningless. All right?
Actually, side note, we had somebody who thought their mortgage was with the Bank of Canada this week.
Okay. Right. Well.
They had a mortgage, so I was like, oh, that's so concerning. I just thought the viewers would find that funny.
The Bank of Canada ain't giving you a mortgage.
No.
So commercial bank prime is 7.2, and it's a discount from prime. So now there's prime less, right? So prime less what? Well, for conventional mortgages, that's the not insured through the government, not CMHC mortgages. That's been something like prime less 0.5%, which is like 6.7, or prime less 0.75%, which is obviously lower. And that's been about what it is. It's not been a really juicy discount from prime. So that's one of the reasons I advise people to stay away from variable rate mortgages, mainly 80% because we did not know when the cuts were coming.
Yeah.
Or if they were coming, or where there'd be a hike.
Risky
that was
game.
unknown for a long time. And finally, the discounts were crap because once you sign up, if you sign up for prime less 50 basis points, prime less a half, you're stuck with that. That's it. That's the only way to get out is pay the penalty. Okay. Yeah. It's a reasonable penalty, 3 months, still a lot of money. But yeah, it's a lousy discount. Boom! Big TD Bank announcement this week. Hey, we're going to give you one hell of a good discount on our variable rates. So effectively, we are Butler Mortgage, we are rate discounters. Yep. We take whatever rate the banks are offering. We find ways either to buy down the rate through a reduction of our commissions, or we find a way to produce an additional cash incentive to make sure we reduce the rates. Always, our goal is simply to have the lowest rates in Canada. Can't do it every time, but we do it most of the time. So prime less 1.25.
Damn.
Yeah, big difference. 1.25%.
Yeah.
And that's a big jump over the 0.5%. Okay. Not saying how long it's going to last. I don't know. TD Bank, one of the biggest banks, and it's it's a worldwide. It's a famous bank throughout the whole world, not just Canada, and that's their offer right now. And it is a big change. That's a big change because that's a rate that's below 6. So let's do some easy math. So let's pretend the cuts start in the fall. Okay. And there's only 2 cuts in the fall, but that's the Bank of Canada cutting prime rate. So, okay. So 5.95 is now 5.45. Okay. But when the Bank of Canada starts to cut, they don't just go twice. I mean, they'll go twice, wait for the U.S. to get going. And then once the U.S. starts cutting, they will cut some more. The theory behind this is, like, you'll have people tell you, oh, no, the Bank of Canada is going to cut 3%. They're going to go from 5 to 2. Okay. Hey, look, it could happen. It could happen. You got to remember, we started at 1/4%. Like,
that's true. And we jumped in 18 months?
0.25, okay?
That's true.
So 2% is not nuts, but let's even forget about 2%, okay?
Yeah.
3% fair? Yeah. Eventually get to 3%?
Yeah.
Okay, so, or even a little higher, but let's just take 150 basis point cut. So 1.5% cut by the Bank of Canada. Well, our 4.95 is now in the 5.95 that you started with, if you took that TD variable rate mortgage, is now mid-4s. And if we got a 2% reduction, that's, in other words, 5 goes to 3 at the Bank of Canada, it's 3.95. Oh, sweet Jesus, we haven't seen a 3.95 rate for a long fucking time. Okay.
Yes.
There are a lot of people who would say, yeah, count me in on a 3.95 rate.
Yeah.
So again, this is analysis. It's not really prediction, but I'm throwing the consumer out some ideas. How long could it take? How long could it take to get all the way down from the Bank of Canada to go from 5 to 3%, 5% to 3%? Could take a year and a half. Could be the end of 2025. Okay. But I'm old. I've seen a lot. Okay. Once they start, they just don't go 50 beeps and stop. Okay.
Yeah.
They're starting for a reason, because the economy's going to rat shit, because unemployment is growing. Okay. And they mean to correct that problem. That's why they're there. So, yeah, I know there's going to be a jillion comments. You're a fool. You're wrong. You're blah, blah. Okay, fine. Look, I was against variable forever for good reasons. And I'm not telling anyone to take variable. If somebody wants to take a 2-year fixed, by all means, take it. 3-year fixed, take it. Okay, I'm not fighting those rates right now. I'm just saying, for as long as I told everybody to forget about variable, I'm telling people now, because of this big rate breakthrough, and this is a conventional mortgage, 30-year amortization, refinance, you name it, okay? Every available product is there. Because of this rate breakthrough, it's maybe time to think about variable. Consult with a mortgage professional. Think about variable today. If you're not comfortable, don't do it, okay? I'm a big believer people have to be okay with their decisions.
Of course.
Nothing forced on them, okay?
Yeah.
I'm just saying it's time to think about it. It wasn't before. I said no before relentlessly. Time to think about it now. Okay. All right, we got viewer mail. Let's talk about questions we have from the viewers.
This one says, I have always had my property tax paid through my mortgage payments. I want to change to a new lender at renewal. The new bank says I must pay my own property tax.
So that the bank is saying the person's probably started with a high ratio mortgage, I'm guessing, and the property tax was part of the mortgage payment, which is fine. Not unusual for people you're just starting, first-time home buyers, small down payments. And now this new bank is saying, no, I don't want to do that. It's like, you got to pay your own property tax. Well, break it down like this. Paying the property tax through the bank has an element of convenience. It does. You just don't have to think about it.
Yeah.
There is a flaw toward paying through the bank. The bank actually has to take more money than it really needs to build up the payment. So if it takes more money than it really needs, so if you actually looked at your account at your bank, sometimes you look at it and it shows your tax account is positive, right? Like it's building up because they have to reach a point where they start making payments. They want to make sure there's enough payments there. So you're probably paying a little bit too much, and it gets reconciled maybe once a year. So there's convenience to having the bank take your taxes as part of your mortgage payment, property taxes. But you're paying a little bit too much, probably. They don't pay you interest on this reserve that builds up. They do not. Okay. And the truth is, if you just arrange, you can just go to the city, go to your town, go to the city, and arrange to sign up for their monthly payments. You can do that. They'll do that. Okay.
Yeah. Or you can just set it up online with your bank.
Absolutely. There's a lot of ways to handle this. A lot of options. Okay. So if a bank says, no, we don't like to do this, and if they have a great rate, and if they're the best product on the market, it works for you as a consumer, don't let that one little issue stand in your way. Okay. That because it's easily fixed.
Pre-authorized payments are a thing.
100%. And it works. It absolutely works. You don't have to worry about it. It does work. Okay. What else we got?
This one says, I have read about second and recently third mortgages. What are these things? I only have one mortgage.
Yeah, for people who have never, ever encountered, who just always have just had their one mortgage their whole life, and they start to hear about second mortgages, third mortgages. By the way, stay the fuck away from third mortgages. That is a terrible thing. But anyhow, sometimes when people get confused, they say, "Well, okay, you keep telling me this is my first mortgage, but but yeah, and I did get this one first. I bought a house and this is my first mortgage, but that's not what it really is." In the system of title, so when you look at mortgages, when you buy a house, your name goes into the government's title system, the municipality or the provinces, typically provinces, title system. It's a database that says who owns the house. Your name goes on it, And the bank's name goes on it because the bank has put a mortgage charge. That's how the jargon we refer to it as. Has put a mortgage charge on your property. So your name's there and the bank's name is there. So there's never any confusion. That way, if you ever try to sell the property, the lawyer for the buyer does a quick title check and there's the bank and they know they have to pay the bank off. Okay? When they buy it from you, they got to pay the bank off. Now, for the vast majority of Canadians, that's all, just one mortgage. Okay. By the way, a bank can do a collateral charge mortgage, which means that you can have different products within that mortgage. You could have a line of credit, still all one big charge, one big mortgage charge, but you could have a line of credit. You could have a couple of other components. You could go take out just a small piece of a mortgage later on and just say, I want to pay this off in 5 years. Not every bank, not every financial institution has that flexibility, but many do. Okay. So when it says a second mortgage, that's as if you've got a first mortgage with a bank. Say your first mortgage is with Scotia. Okay. And you want to get more money, but for whatever situation, because qualification rates are up, stress test doesn't work for you, Scotia says no. In theory, if you have enough equity in your home, you could go to a private lender and get a second mortgage. The reason we call it a second mortgage is that when you look at the title on that property, you go back to the provincial system and look at the title, Scotia's the first mortgage. They're called in first position. So this private lender is in second position, so we call it a second mortgage. Again, third, stupid, but you get the idea of what it is. One important thing is sometimes you'll never see that behind a Scotia mortgage. We refer to it as behind because it's in second position. You'll never see it because Scotia doesn't actually allow second mortgages. So doesn't mean that can't happen, but they don't allow it. So that's what a first and a second mortgage is not that's not the time you got the mortgage. Yeah, I got that one first and now they're getting this. No, it's how they appear on the title.
Right. When
you look up the title in the provincial records, that's first, second, maybe third bad. Don't do it. So that's the thoughts there. Okay. Nice. So we got the news from TREB just this morning from the big Toronto Real Estate Board, which is the Toronto Regional Real Estate Board. There's a lot. It's huge. It's like, I don't know, 6 million people, 7 million people in it. It's big. Yeah. And the news was that prices are no real change, but very little change in prices. But sales activity is down. Compared with last year, sales activity is down 5%. So it's not 25-year lows, but it's like 10-year lows, give or take. But of course, it's just not good. Like it's not going up. Okay. Right. And they also measure new listings because that's, sales and listings are not totally correlated. And they found something interesting that condo listings are up, way up. Okay. Which I honestly think is a function of some condo landlords, they're fed up.
Yeah.
I think they're fed up. I mean, like if anybody ever runs into a problem where they have to go to the landlord and tenant board, that's a total fucking disaster.
Shit show.
That's a shit show. Yeah, it's horrible. So that doesn't work, and that makes you think to yourself, if you have enough trouble with tenants, you start to wonder, do I want to keep being a landlord?
Yeah. Especially for the landlords who are stuck with the shitty tenants who they can go 6-12 months without paying until they finally get to court and evicted. Imagine paying like 2-3 mortgages and then not receiving a penny in your rental income.
Oh, God.
I can imagine. People are just fed up.
It's a disaster. And it doesn't look like it's getting any better at all.
Yeah.
No improvement in the landlord and tenant board. There's also the relentless march of renewals, right?
Yeah.
Like if you got I would say that a lot of landlords do have mortgages, like mom and pop landlords, individual investors who bought properties have a mortgage on that property because that makes sense, right? The whole idea is leverage to buy more, to buy these things. So we've had this endless march of renewal rate increases, right? So you got tenants, you might have good tenants, but you worry about what happens next. And then you have an increased mortgage amount, but you can't really pass it on to the tenant because they might have a lease. Oh, you maybe do something at the end of the lease, but you might have only been like break even. Let's say you're just break even on the place. Like you're maybe making $100. Maybe you were losing $50 a month.
Yeah.
But you were always counting on the increase in the value of the condo. So someday you could sell.
Right.
And it would be a good return. Okay.
Right.
Maybe that won't happen.
Not looking good. No.
So maybe that won't happen.
Yeah.
So then you say to yourself, okay, I used to be like break even. Some months I made $50, some months I lost $25 if there was a repair or something. But the condo strata fees keep going up.
Yeah.
Right. And the property tax probably going to keep going up.
Oh, of course, yeah.
And now the mortgages has gone up.
And there's only so much rent you can charge to a point where who's going to live in a 500 square feet for $7,000?
Look, I saw a study the other day that rents are actually down slightly. They're down
slightly
in some product, not single family product, not low rise, but like in these condos that some of them are down slightly. Okay.
Yeah, especially the tiny ones.
Yeah, that's the dog crate condos.
Yeah.
So we're seeing a very significant increase in the inventory of those listings. So will that finally mean the prices there will fall in a meaningful way? I don't know that answer. I can't tell you. I just don't know. They might not, because we do have immigration in Canada. People need places to live.
Yeah.
But
we also have a lot of upset Canadians, right?
And we do
people
we do
who
too.
are just like, well, why am I going to invest here and stay trapped here when it's unaffordable, right? Like if I could buy a condo and it was 500-600 square feet, even if the affordability is not an issue, I'm not going to do it because who's going to live in that?
I don't want to live in a small condo.
Personally, me and my partner and our 2 dogs, we don't want to live in 600 square feet. No. So it's like maybe people who are looking at it as an investment opportunity, sure, to rent, but
that's it. Actually,
the math has to math.
And the math ain't math. And so to your point, actually, nobody really wants to buy one of those to live in.
Exactly.
So they're almost entirely bought by investors. And if investors smell that it's turning into a lousy investment, they're faced with a choice. Do I hold on and hope things get better?
Or do I jump ship?
Which we refer to as hopium. Okay.
Hopium.
Because
they're high on that hopium.
Yeah, because in any world of planning, hope is a shitty strategy.
Oh,
okay?
100%.
I hope things get better. They don't seem to be, but I hope they do. No, that is a shitty strategy. So at the end of the day, you have more and more, I believe, and it seems to be demonstrated by the listing increases, that we have more investors who are simply saying, you know what? I got my own home. I got a mortgage. I got 2 investment properties. I got mortgages on them. I'm going to sell one. I want to reduce the pressure. Okay. It might be the wrong time to sell, but I just don't want to continue this way. Yeah. And so that's why I think we see more listings. As simple as that. Now, that leads us to another issue on the condos, which is new construction condos that are coming up for completion. And it just might be we got new condo mayhem out there. Okay, new condo completion mayhem. I'll tell you a very interesting twist on it. And this is not just me, but some other people in the business have been pointing this out. I'm well aware of it. I have seen it. Guys like John Pasalis, Steve Saratsky point out that there is a strange correlation going on right now, that some of these condos, because they were expensive to buy, because that's one thing about new construction condos, they just kept going up and up and up. The square footage prices just kept going up and up and up and up and up. We've talked about the reasons before, but let's just start with that premise. Higher and higher and higher for new construction. And the ones that are coming for completion now were started 5 or 6 years ago, where they were bought 5 or 6 years ago. So we're getting closer and closer to a point where they're not worth what people paid for them. Okay. But we have the strange experience of something called, in banking world, of something called a blanket appraisal. Now, a blanket appraisal is where one bank says, you know what? We've done our analysis, and we believe as a bank that in this building, every new condo is worth the purchase price. We're not going to send anybody in. We're not going to send individual appraisers. We've done a blanket appraisal of the whole building.
Oh.
And we believe that if you want to get a mortgage from us at our bank, that we're just going to tell you, we don't have to look. We're not checking. Our position is the purchase price is correct. And we will give you a mortgage based on the purchase price, period. Now you say to yourself, what? That's crazy.
In whose benefit is that working?
Exactly. Well, if you think your condo's worth less than what you paid for it 6 years ago or 5 years ago, I guess it could be to your benefit, right? Because...
Yeah, but then also the bank's in the benefit too, right? Because now you're overpaying for a unit that's not even worth.
But in theory, that's not good for a bank, right? A bank never wants to over mortgage a property, right? They always want to analyze what the value is, check on the value, and make sure that an independent service like an appraiser says, I think this is the value.
So then they're doing it for the purchaser, for the buyer.
Are they? All right. So
that's the question.
This is a weird one. So let me explain it to you, because I have not encountered this for many, many, many years. Okay, like this is almost a brand new thing on the scene.
It's kind of hard for me to think that a bank's going to do it out of the goodness of their own heart. Like, what's in it for them?
Excellent point. What's in it for them? Okay, so universally, the bank that is offering this guaranteed value of the purchase price. Like we don't need to check it. You don't need to pay for an appraisal. We've analyzed the building, and every single suite in the building is worth what the purchase price is. You will find out, strange coincidence, that same bank provided the construction financing to the developer.
You don't say.
What do you know? Okay, so they got a $200 million mortgage on a unit, on a huge building, many, like 300 suites. And they got a huge mortgage to complete the construction. Construction's finished. And the bank's absolute expectation is that the condo corp, because you have to have at least 80 to 90% of the building sold and generate enough cash when the condo corp is formed. Everybody gets a mortgage, or everybody pays their cash. And that huge amount of money that comes from converting from a new build with construction financing to a condominium corporation with all individual mortgages on individual suites, that moment comes and this astronomical amount of money goes to the developer, and the bank takes their share and pays off the construction mortgage. So you got let's just say $200 million. You got a $200 million mortgage. If not enough people can get the individual mortgages on the units they bought, if they're having trouble and you can't get enough of them to close to form the condo corp, I think the bank has a $200 million problem, right?
Yeah.
Now, if that same bank says to everybody who wants to get a mortgage for their individual unit, says, we are going to appraise it as the purchase price. We've decided that's our approach. And by the way, that bank doesn't get all of the mortgages, and some of them are cash. Some of the people paid cash, not many, but some did. Okay, and some got appraisals from their bank, and their bank said, no, it's worth $40,000 less. But those people could come up with the $40,000. Okay, so they could close. Okay, and we have the bank who's offering the blanket appraisal, and for all those people, they don't have to worry about appraisals. So they're going to close. In all likelihood, they are going to close. There might be a few problems, but they're going to close. So you say to yourself, but wait, Ron, hold on. Like that means that bank, whichever bank that is, those individual units are actually worth less than the bank said they were worth, which is bad, right?
Yeah.
Except some of them were cash, some of them were not with the bank. The condo closed. The $200 million construction mortgage was paid off. So you don't have a $200 million problem anymore. You have the possibility, only the possibility, because nothing's gone wrong yet, the possibility of a few problems with each $600,000 or $500,000 or $400,000 mortgage. And some of those people won't have any problems. They're people who are living there, and no matter what, they live in those suites, and they're happy, and they make their payments. They got their jobs, they make their payments. And some of those people are investors who actually put 30% down.
Yeah.
So then that's okay too.
Smaller mortgages.
That's okay.
Yeah.
The bank's in good shape.
Yeah.
So what the bank is doing rather smartly actually is we're going to take a $200 million problem and we're going to turn it into a bunch of little $400,000 problems. And maybe there won't be a problem. But if there is a few problems, maybe there's 10 of them. That's $4 million, not $200 million. Okay.
Yeah.
Not $200 million. So that's the logic there. Okay. That's the logic of the blanket appraisal.
It's a nice little Band-Aid solution, but it'll do.
Well, until eventually some bank regulator is going to say, wait a second, you can't do this. This is nuts. Okay, we're going to look into this. And then, but right now.
They'll do as much as they can till then.
Right now, it's an option. Absolutely, it's an option. And it happens. We watch it happen every day. Okay. It gets us to our really sort of the favorite part of the program.
The one and only, what the actual fuck?
What the actual fuck is going on with this sort of general pissy bad mood people are in Canada?
We're all so upset.
We're all pissed
Yeah.
off. A lot of people are pissed off all the time, okay?
Yeah.
We see it in the media. We hear it when we talk to our friends.
I see it when people are driving.
People are driving, road rage. You see it, though. Now, don't get me wrong. There's a certain number of shitty things going on.
There's a lot to be mad about, for sure.
There's some stuff to be mad about. I went through years there was hardly any wars, and now there's a bunch of different wars. Okay, a bunch of different. I went through. There's always a little bit of protest about something, but now we're watching across all of North America, Europe. We're watching massive protests on universities, streets, street protests, campus protests. It's on the news every night. So that's not pleasant viewing, right?
No, it's also not pleasant for both sides.
Everybody who's involved,
right?
Terrible.
Yeah.
So we got technology. Is AI going to take over our jobs? We got lots of disappointment with our politicians on all sides. I gotta admit, I'm having a hard time remembering. Like I've mentioned this before on the show, but I've lived in Canada my whole life. I never saw anybody put a bumper sticker on their vehicle that said "fuck the Prime Minister" before. Okay, this is a new thing. Like that never happened. Okay,
Yeah.
So, so there's a general kind of disappointment, mild anger, and lots of things that are going on. But here's what I learned. And I learned this from one brilliant man who ran the campaign to elect. First of all, you got Bill Clinton elected, so it's going back a long time. And then he worked with another guy who helped to get Barack Obama elected in the States. And these two guys, one of them's name is David Carville, and one of them's David Axelrod. Wait a minute, is David Carville? I might have the wrong first name. James Carville. James Carville, David Axelrod. Okay? Two brilliant political operators. And they both made this point when they were entering into any political campaigns. They said there's a lot of things to think about, but there's only one important thing. And I want you to memorize this. It's the economy, stupid. Okay? You're stupid if you go anywhere else. It's just the economy. Only focus on the economy. Okay? So I thought to myself, just as recently as the other day, I thought, fuck me, that applies to now. That fucking applies to now.
Yeah.
Because even though there's lots of crappy things going on in the world and going on around us that we don't fucking like, okay? At the heart of our being pissed off is a shitty economy.
1,000%.
Yeah. I mean, listen, there could be a lot of wrong things going on in the world.
Yeah.
But if I saw my bank account growing at the end of every month and I'm getting more and more money and I got a raise or my partner got a new job with a much better pay or interest rates were low and I could afford a nice new car and cars weren't super expensive like they are now and the fucking steak when I went to the grocery store wasn't so much higher than it used to be.
Yeah.
Like if everything was going well in my economic life and my own financial life,
right,
I could be a lot less pissed off at everything else.
Yeah,
okay?
naturally. Like, by nature, humans are selfish. So
Yeah.
we want our lives to be okay. And then when we see everything else not being okay, but then on top of that, our lives are shitty, fuck everything.
Fuck everything. We're mad about everything. Okay, absolutely. We're mad about everything. So, like, okay, so this is my new fucking theory. Okay.
Yeah.
Fix the economy, stupid. Okay, like, get the fucking inflation beat. Get some wages up. Get the price of houses down. Get the rents down.
Groceries down.
All that stuff. Get it
Everything.
under
Cars.
fucking control.
Please.
Okay, please.
We're begging.
And then we won't all be so pissed off.
We'll
right?
still be mad, but maybe not as mad.
Or nowhere near as mad.
Yeah.
Okay, like nowhere near as generally aggravated.
All the anger would stay on the Angry Mortgage Show.
And we would just look out at all the other bad things of the world and all the protests and all the bad things and say, "Oh, that's terrible, but let's go to dinner."
It's the privilege of living here, sure, but I mean, it is what it is.
But when your bank account ain't growing, you ain't fucking happy.
Be mad.
That's it. All right, folks, next week.
Have a good one.
If you like the pod, well, don't just sit there. Go to YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and all the other ones and like the pod. And don't forget to subscribe so we can keep being angry at mortgages and swearing about mortgages. Angry Mortgage could use your support.